morning, I'm Cindy Folpak. I'm the news editor for the Mercury.
My name is Iman Bangish and I'm a writer for the Mercury.
Today we're here with Hasan Minhaj. You may know him from his Netflix special Homecoming King, which gained critical acclaim, or you may have caught him as a senior correspondent on The Daily Show.
Thanks for being on here.
Thanks for having me.
So we're just going to go ahead and move into the interview questions. So how did your experiences as an Indian Muslim in America change from when you were in high school to when you were in college?
Yeah, I think sort of. So when I went to high school, I was in high school when 9/11 happened, which was a big, I think, turning point for Muslim Americans, where we were, minorities in the country, but that really sort of put a target on our backs as really enemies of the country. So radical Islamic terrorism became a thing that was like a big, it was a huge symbolic and sort of reality that happened because of the what happened to the Twin Towers. And so for me, being like 16 or 17 when that happened was a big changing point for me to go, well, what is my place in America? Where do I belong? And I really struggled with sort of finding my identity and where do I belong in the country, in a country that currently sort of views us in a certain way, and how do I navigate this thing called like the American dream? And that really got me sort of interested as I delved into comedy in college, into the idea of like talking about identity and where I belong, ideas like civil liberties and stuff like that. And so as I started to develop my comedic voice in college, I just started to dig deeper and deeper into that, and sort of I've continued to evolve from there. I feel like I'm still continuing to like evolve and figure out like my voice.
So for our readers who aren't aware, what exactly is your role on The Daily Show?
So I'm a senior correspondent on The Daily Show. So if you haven't seen The Daily Show, basically we have a host. He's from South Africa. His name's Trevor Noah. He's very handsome. He has very beautiful dimples. You guys get to see it in 1080p. I get to see him in real life. He's behind the desk. He's the host. Correspondents serve similar to what you see on the news when they go to live on location or they bring in a correspondent to report on an issue. So kind of like real correspondents on news shows, I'm a fake correspondent on a fake news show, which is really interesting and fun. So I usually come in and report on a specific issue or topic or story.
Cool.
Yeah.
So in your skits on the show, how do you manage to appeal to such a diverse group of people with different ideals? Like, how do you walk that fine line between comedy and a PSA?
Yeah, that's really tough. Look, I think what's for me, I really fell into comedy. I was a speech and debate kid, and comedy to me, when I started like watching the Richard Pryors and I watched the George Carlins and I got to see really great stand-up comedians, I was like, oh, they're just doing funny speech and debate. So they're still presenting an argument, they're just doing it in a funny way. And so I usually try to just figure out what's the argument first and then just lace it with jokes, which can be fun. That's like, it's like a game, it's like a puzzle, it's really fun for me, yeah.
So what's it like to work with industry giants like Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert?
It's really fun. It's really cool. You know what? It's like as a Padawan getting to watch Jedi use their lightsabers, you're like, whoa, one day I hope I can wield a lightsaber like that. And they're like, not yet. But it's really cool. They're really encouraging. And one of the best pieces of advice that I got from John is actually like a lot of non-advice, just encouragement to just keep going and to organically find your voice and stumble and fall. But what you get from that is like, it really does build your confidence and it sort of builds your own like autonomy. Like, no, I can do this, I can figure this out. And so what's great about them is they give you a chance and then they just let you run, which is really cool.
So what do you think about how the election of President Trump has brought on an increased attention to political affairs in the news?
So I think what's the orange lining to all of this stuff has been, political culture is now popular culture. So I remember being at the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention, and irrespective of your partisanship, what was really interesting to see was that like all news outlets were there. Like E! News was there, Bravo was there, VH1 was there. So what's happening now is that like the entire media landscape is covering the political process. And so I consider myself to be an angry optimist, and I'm like, this is a good thing. Whether you're happy or unhappy about the state of the country, what's happening right now is at least we're having the discussion. And at least a lot of people are trying to engage with the issues. And so to me, like, sure, I'm sure there's things that everybody's frustrated, but at least we're all at the table presenting our ideas and saying, this is where I think this is right, this is where I think this is wrong. And I think that's a lot better than just everyone being like, no, I don't really care about politics. Game of Thrones is on. Cool.
Okay, so despite your successes, especially with Homecoming King, which got critical acclaim, do you still experience Islamophobia in your everyday life?
So I'm lucky, but it's also sad. So I'm lucky in the sense that, like, I think a lot of times when people become successful, and this happens to a lot of minorities, you gentrify yourself out of your race. You become one of the good ones. So I've been able to be in situations where, you know, people will say bad things about Muslims, but they'll go, but you're one of the good ones. You're now a celebrity, so you're not like those other people. And that's really disappointing. So one of the things that I try to do, and I hope to do with my art, is to provide inspiration and opportunity at scale, so that there are more writers, performers, executives, people that are entering that room to change the conversation, so that I don't become the exception, it becomes the rule. That table where the decisions are made is like diverse, like this room, the room here. You know, it's like different people from different walks of life, different genders, all coming to the table saying, these are my ideas and these are your ideas. Let's hash this out. Yeah.
Okay. So you use your platform to raise awareness for minority struggles and social justice. So what advice do you have for college students who have been on the forefront of activist movements?
I think it's great. I think, look, like what we're being an activist, or I consider myself to just be a curious person. So the show that you guys saw, you know, there's clear questions that I was asking, you know, like, how likely are you to die from foreign terrorism? Because I basically see the debate. I see people arguing on Facebook, and I go, okay, what's the crux of the question? Or does Islam have a monopoly on extremism? Why does the CVE exist and criminalize one community to the exception of all others? And then answer that. And so, like, it really starts for me from a place of curiosity. And so my advice to people is to just stay curious. It doesn't have to just be about politics, but to just like stay curious in general and to continue to ask yourself that question and let that inform your art or the stories that you write. Yeah.
Okay, so what advice do you have for UTD students who might be wanting to get into the entertainment industry?
I would say start now, start young. Don't be afraid to fail. And here's the thing, you're playing the long game. No matter what you want to do, you're trying to do this for the rest of your career. I met someone who's like, I want to be the next Oprah. And I was like, that is so awesome. Oprah's been in the game for decades. And if you were to ask Oprah, she still has decades to go. And so I remember being in college, like really, really worrying about, man, if I don't accomplish this within 2 years, I'm a failure. If I don't accomplish this within 4 years, I'm a failure. If I'm not here by 10 years, I'm a complete failure. And what I realized is like my journey is very specific and unique, but more importantly, wait a second, I'm trying to do this for the rest of my life. You know, I like Dick Gregory, who's an amazing comedian. He's a legendary comedian. He passed away, I think at 84, and he was performing at Caroline's Comedy Club in New York City. Like he was set to perform there weeks before he died. And to me, that was like so inspiring that like this dude at 84 is still like doing what I was doing, just like getting on stage, mic stand, audience, hey, here's my new stuff. And I really thought to myself, I'm 32, man, if I could only be so lucky to have that curiosity and passion to continue doing that for another 5 decades, that'll be really, really cool. And that's the game that I'm trying to play myself. And hopefully I think if young artists feel that way, I think that's the right mentality to have.
While you were at UC Davis, you majored in poli-sci, but
Yes.
ended up doing comedy.
Yeah.
So why did you initially choose that major? What was your plan going into college?
So I failed out of pre-med. Yeah, I just couldn't get it done. You know, I started in pre-med. I couldn't get it done. I wasn't good enough at it. It's really embarrassing. But look, like it wasn't my strength. And like, I think that was like a really, really amazing lesson for me, was that like, dude, that's not you. You gotta play to your strengths. And I was far better at like, you know, reading political science and philosophy and writing and presenting arguments and performing, like actually taking the stuff that I'm reading, like contextualizing it, boiling it down, almost like that's coffee, boiling it down into espresso and then conveying that on stage. That's really what like comedy is. You reduce things into like their core essence. And yeah, that's what I ended up doing with political science. It was just I had to pivot into something that was more my strength. That's big.
Interesting. So, do you edit or change your sets in any way based on your demographic, especially to college students?
No, I try to. The only thing I edit or change is if I'm going overseas and they don't have a certain thing. Like I was doing shows in London, they don't have like Seamless and Grubhub. So I was like, what do you guys have here? And they're like, Deliveroo. And I'm like, okay, fine, Deliveroo. But other than that, no. Like I always respect the audience, and I don't disrespect their intelligence. Like I think that's really, really insulting to think that like, oh, you guys wouldn't get this. No, like audiences are like as smart, if not smarter than you think.
Okay. So, do you have any future projects you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, what you guys saw is kind of like the beginning of what I think sort of the next stuff, the next sort of, I'm still figuring out what format should I do this in. But like, again, like this is the fun part of like being like a creative person. Like, I feel like with Homecoming King, that was like a really, really cool autobiographical story of like, this is who I am and this is what happened to me that got me to where I am today. And I think with the next project that I'm sort of working on is, all right, you know who I am, but like, what is my take or position on certain issues in the world? And now it's about figuring out what's the best way to put that into something. Is that a special? Is that a miniseries? Is it a documentary? And that's really what excites me.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you guys like the show?
Yes.
Oh, cool. So yeah, is that something that you guys would like want to see like in a on like a series or anything like that? Or like cool? Yeah. So that's really what I'm trying to figure out. Is like, what's the best way to sort of deliver this sort of form of like storytelling?
So why did you decide to visit college students?
So to me, what's cool is like universities are the perfect intersection, I think, of both like what in terms of the subject matter that I'm talking about in my show, of both like sort of like education, statistics, all of that stuff, coupled with like people that are sort of politically savvy and aware. It's like both of those things. People in college are like taking all of those classes, like doing case studies, Venn diagrams, like universities, that's what people have to take as prerequisites. And I found that like people in college are being exposed to the most sort of diversity that you would probably think in your life. Like that window, you're just exposed to like a swath of different types of people from different walks of life. And so to me, doing like a university tour is really, really interesting to me because of that exact reason, versus doing like going to a comedy club where people are like, dude, I just want to get hammered and tell me jokes about relationships, like just be funny. Universities are really great because it's that perfect sort of Venn diagram.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think if that's all there is, well then thank you so much.
Thank you. That was so fun.
Yeah.
It was nice meeting you guys.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you too.
I love meeting you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice meeting you.
Wow.